Hello, and welcome to our series of instructional webisodes for Memory Book Online, brought to you by Memory Book Company. In this webisode, we will be discussing the Portrait Flow feature and how you will use Flow to build your class pages. To begin, we'll click on the link for 3 pages to take us into the design area. Now, in brief, Portrait Flow is a time-saving feature that takes the student photos in your portrait categories and the tagged names of those student photos and places them into any one of our pre-made portrait templates all at one time. Before we can get started flowing, the first thing that we have to do is add a portrait template to our page. To add a portrait template to your page, we'll go over to the Designs tab on the right. And from the drop-down menu, we're going to go down to Portraits under the Page Surfer section. And this is going to show us all of our pre-made portrait templates. Now, when choosing a class template, it's best to choose a class template based on your largest class size. And this is just going to keep a consistent size of all your class photos throughout the yearbook. We do welcome you to check out our templates to see what we have here, and that way you can find a style that best fits you. Do keep in mind these are also customizable, so you can change them up and have your own unique portrait template. So we're going to find a template and drop it onto our page. Now you can do your class layout on just one side or both sides. It just depends on how you want your yearbook to look. Okay, so now we have the first part done. We have our template on our page. The next thing that you'll do is you'll go over to the Flow tab, and this is where we're going to select our class category to flow. From the drop-down menu, we're going to select our class, and this is going to show us a preview of all of the images that are in that portrait category. Now we also have some other information here, such as format. This drop-down is going to allow you to choose how you want the class photo's name to appear. First last is the default option, but you can also change it up to be first middle last first middle. It's also going to give you information such as total images within this category. If you had flowed this class before on one page or part of it, it's going to show you how many of them flowed, and it's also going to show you if there's any remaining. Now, before we flow the class, we always suggest clicking on the preview button. And when we do this, this is going to put a green line from the photo box to a spot in the text box. So before we flow, we'll just click on preview, and we're just wanting to make sure that every photo box has a green line from it to a name spot in the text box. So once our preview checks out, we're now ready to flow our class page. To do this, we're just going to click on the Flow button. And at one time, you're going to see your photos and the names tagged to those photos place into your template all at one time. Now, if you do have a very large class that goes over an amount of pages, you will have this continue flow message, and it just wants to ask you if you want to continue flowing on to the next page. If you have a template that's already there, go ahead and click on yes. If you know that you don't have a template on that next page, you can click on no, and then you can also go back at a later moment and reflow the remaining group onto that next page. Because the flow feature is a time-saving feature, meaning it will save you from placing the class photos one by one and from having to type each individual student name, we'll show you a few things that will keep this a time-saving feature for you. If you are flowing class pages to just a single page, one thing you'll want to do before you flow your next class group onto the next page is you'll want to remove any extra photo boxes that are still remaining. If we do not do this, what will happen is when we go to flow the next flow group, this group is going to flow into the empty spots that were left and then carry over into the template onto the next page. To avoid this, there's a couple of ways to go about it. The first one is just by selecting the empty photo boxes and deleting them from the page. Then we can go over to our next page and hit flow. And now our group is going to flow just into the template that we want it. The other way that we can contain our flow, in case we don't want to remove these, and sometimes you won't remove these just in case you're going to leave spots open, just in case you have any new students that come in through the school year or if you have classroom changes. But the other way to contain your flow is just to change your page view to show just a single page. Under our view menu, we'll go to left page, and this is going to pull you to the even page, and right page is going to show your odd page. So then when you just have a single page showing, whenever you go to flow your class group, the flow is contained just to the page that is showing. When flowing your class pages, something else that you may run into is a duplicate image within your flow group. Now, a lot of times you will want to prepare or organize your class photos before flowing, but sometimes we do have one that slips through the cracks. So how do we remove our duplicate? Well, to remove our duplicate, we'll need to do this in the Photos section real quick. So we'll go to Photos, and we're going to find our portrait category for that flow group. We're going to find our duplicate image. We'll double click on it. We'll go to the Details tab, and where it has Use Portrait, we're going to change this to Don't Use Portrait. Click Apply Changes, and then Done. Now once we mark a student as Don't Use Portrait, here in our preview we're going to see a Don't Use, and the image is shaded out. Now once we have the image marked as Do Not Use, we're now good to go to the Pages section. And while we're here for just a moment, some other things that you'll want to do or you might find when you're flowing is if you have new students coming in, you'll want to have them uploaded and moved into the class category before flowing a group. Or you might find that you need to add a no photo to a class group for anyone that missed picture day. Any of this will need to be done before flowing or reflowing the class group. So once we have what we needed to taken care of in the Photos section, we'll go back to Pages, and to reflow a class, we're going to go back to the Flow tab. We're going to make sure that we have the group that we're reflowing. Up in our panel, we see that remaining images, we have a -1, so it shows that we've taken someone out. Before we click on Flow, we need to click on the Reset button, and this is going to reset our flow group. Once we hit Reset, we now see that that duplicate image is taken out. So we're going to click on Flow, and now we see that our flow group has corrected itself and it's taken the duplicate out. One thing you will notice if you ever do reflow a class group and you've taken a student out, whenever you reset the group and you reflow, you'll notice that the last image is now duplicated. That's just because whenever you reflow, you took a student out of the flow group, so you have one less space to overfill. So if you ever reflow a class group, one thing you'll do is you'll just select that last image that appears to be duplicated. You'll click Delete on your keyboard once, and that's just going to remove the photo from the photo box. So here we have a reflowed class group. Now that we have flown our class group, our page is now ready for any customizing that we want to do to it. We can select our photos. We can go over to the Format tab. We can add a stroke to our photos, and we can adjust the size of that stroke. We can even change the stroke color. If we want to add a drop shadow to our images, we can add drop shadow. If we have square boxes, we can choose a rounded corner or we can completely change their shape to oval. We can also change any type that we have in our template. We can change the font style and the size of our names. We can even change their color. If you have any shapes on your page, we can change their fill color. We can even go to the Images tab and find a background for our page. So here's just a few examples of how you can customize a class page once you're done flowing. Using the Portrait Flow feature to build your class pages will definitely save you some time when building your yearbook. Before flowing class pages, be sure to check out our webisode on organizing class photos, where we show you how to prepare your class photos for flowing. This concludes our MBO webisode about using Portrait Flow to build your class pages in the Memory Book Online program. Please watch the remaining webisodes for more detailed information on creating your book. You may also refer to the Memory Book Online instruction manual provided with your yearbook kit. Call our technical support team at 877-302-3140 or by sending an email to technicalsupport@memorybook.com. Thank you for your time and stay tuned for more of our instructional webisodes.